Coming up on your news at 5, Congress returns to D.C. and the Supreme Court wraps up the last of their hearings for this term. Your week ahead from Washington. Then President Trump wants to make sure U.S. ships do not pay to use the Panama Canal, what you need to know. And how a local Alaskan made their way to the Hollywood screens. A look inside Arctic Comic Con and Kira Buckland's story.
You're watching Alaska's news source.
Thank you for joining us on your news at 5. Congress returns to D.C. with ambitions to pass President Trump's policies as he nears a benchmark in his term. The Supreme Court wraps up the last of their hearings of this term. Washington correspondent Ryan Henson has the week ahead in Washington.
After 2 weeks off to celebrate Passover and Easter, Congress returns to the nation's capital with an eye on passing President Donald Trump's agenda. Congressional Republicans hope to continue work on reconciliation, hoping to pass what Trump calls, quote, one big beautiful bill, which will include tax cuts and money for both the military and border security. Also this week, Trump celebrates his 100th day of his second term. He's holding a rally in Michigan to mark the ceremonial occasion on Tuesday. And the Supreme Court starts to wrap up its oral arguments, hearing some of its final cases this term. They include cases on school access for disabled students, charter schools, and law enforcement raids on the wrong houses. The justices are expected to release their decisions in June. And the justices did add one more case. They will hear arguments on President Donald Trump's executive order ending birthright citizenship on May 15th. And that's your week ahead in Washington. I'm Ryan Henson.
Immigration and Customs Enforcement and local law enforcement ramped up arrests over the weekend of immigrants who may be in the country illegally. Hundreds were detained in Colorado and Florida. This comes amid protests over the Trump administration's tough stance on immigration. Jen Sullivan is tracking the latest ICE detentions and the growing outrage in response.
Federal officials in Colorado breaking into what authorities describe as an underground nightclub in Colorado Springs early Sunday morning. Law enforcement swarming people as they run out of the building.
What was happening inside was significant drug trafficking, prostitution, crimes of violence. We seized a number of guns in there.
Officials say more than 200 people were inside the nightclub at the time. At least 100 people were detained and taken into ICE custody, accused of being in the U.S. illegally.
Colorado Springs is waking up to a safer community today.
The detainments in Colorado are just the latest sting across the country as President Donald Trump cracks down on illegal immigration. ICE posting these photos of arrests in Florida, where nearly 800 people were taken into custody over the last 4 days, also accused of being in the country illegally. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis commending the arrests, saying Florida is leading the nation in active cooperation with the Trump administration. Meanwhile, pro-immigrant rallies were held in Milwaukee Saturday after a Milwaukee County Circuit judge was arrested by the FBI Friday and charged in federal court for allegedly helping an undocumented immigrant avoid arrest. Immigration is an issue Americans are divided on. A recent CNN poll shows 45% of people say they approve of Trump's handling of immigration, 54% saying they disapprove. I'm Jen Sullivan reporting.
And the work week and the school weeks are starting off wet and slippery. Christina Campbell is in the Weather Center, will tell us more.
Yes, Adelmi, we definitely have a wet start to the work week. Starting tonight for some spots, but a few areas could see some sunshine, the interior, for example. But right now, a lot of active weather toward the southern coastline, southwest, as we see waves of energy from a low in the Bristol Bay region, or in the Bering Sea region, rather, that keeps sending little waves across the southern coastline, and then we'll see one big low move up with a front. Right now, you can see the entire south central region pretty much lit up, mainly Prince William Sound, the North Gulf Coast. Further inland, you get a little bit of sunshine. Eureka and Palmer still seeing some sun breaks out there right now in the interior. Some sunshine, mild temperatures in the upper 50s right now. 59 degrees in Fairbanks, Tanana at 42 degrees, and we are getting so close to that tripod tipping over. We'll show you video just a little bit later on. But some of the higher elevations as we look ahead could see some snow as these waves of energy continue to move through the area, primarily Prince William Sound, the mountains at about the 2,000-foot level or higher, and the southeast will likely see some precipitation, 1 to 2 inches possible. Otherwise, Fairbanks looking at more nice weather, but scattered showers moving in. A little bit of wet weather for Anchorage, Juneau, and even Bethel could see some mixed showers. Temperatures in the 40s and 50s. And as we look ahead for tonight in Anchorage, those clouds stick around. You may see some light sprinkles, light showers, with temperatures dropping from the 40s into the 30s. And of course, I'll have a lot more details coming up on your full weather forecast in just a bit.
Thank you so much, Christina. We'll see you soon. And President Donald Trump says that he believes U.S. ships should not have to pay to use the Panama Canal or Egypt's Suez Canal. President Trump's comments come as he continues threatening to retake the Panama Canal and accusing Panama of charging the U.S., quote, exorbitant rates to use the canal. He took to Truth Social, saying in part that American ships, both military and commercial, should be allowed to travel free of charge through the Panama and Suez canals. Those canals should not exist without the United States, or would not exist without the United States of America, end quote. And still to come on the news at 5, a local artist is creating space for crafts. Why they felt the LGBTQ plus community needed this space that even they were searching for. And one Alaska born and raised left the state to pursue big dreams. She's back for Arctic Comic Con. We'll introduce you to Kira Buckland.
You're watching Alaska's news source.
In Anchorage, this final weekend of April, folks are coming out for activities, including artists and members of the LGBTQ plus community. Audrey Strasowski started hosting Queer Art Jam at Rage City Vintage in February. On the last Sunday of each month, attendees can join them at Rage City Vintage for a workshop with a new material. So far, art jams have included embroidery, watercolor, and washi tape, all provided from Strasowski's own collection of art supplies. They tell us they started hosting the event because they were looking for something they just hadn't found anywhere else.
I think there aren't enough spaces out in Anchorage where people can gather during the daytime. We have the bars and stuff and shows, which are really awesome, but it'd be nice to have a gathering during the daytime where folks can socialize but also craft, and if they have their own projects they can work on those or they can learn something new.
This month's event has already passed, but Strasowski plans on hosting another event for the month of May on May 25th. And many of the celebrity guests at this weekend's Arctic Comic Con are visiting from out of town, but one has a special connection to Alaska. Reporter Joe Allgood has the story.
Yeah! Everyone's gonna stare at me now.
Watching her favorite characters in television and video games, Kira Buckland knew early on that she wanted to be involved.
Sort of realizing that there were people who do the voices and deciding that's what I wanted to do.
Far from the center of the entertainment industry, Buckland grew up right here in Anchorage. Getting her start early on, she produced voiceovers for friends and locals, but ultimately felt it was time for a change.
Moving to LA was the big thing that I needed to do to start working in the industry and doing this as my job. And I miss Anchorage. I would still live here if it were up to me, but I have to be in LA for work.
From there, Buckland has voiced hundreds of characters in series and video games watched around the world, even a few of her own favorites.
So my favorite franchise of all time is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I love JoJo's. I even got a tattoo that the character I play has long before I ever played her.
While still living in LA, Buckland visits home from time to time. And not just for personal reasons, but also on business, like being a featured guest at Arctic Comic Con 2025.
It's really exciting. I do come back to Anchorage a lot to visit my family, but it's always fun when I get to do a convention on top of it.
Grateful for the fans that she meets, Buckland credits those who've helped her get where she is now.
I'm fortunate enough to help bring these characters to life, but it's really thanks to the people who write these stories and draw and animate this art and everything like that, create the stories people love. And I'm just a small part of that, but very thankful to be a part of it.
Joe Allgood, Alaska's news source.
Thanks for listening. Click subscribe so you can get the latest podcast from Alaska's news source automatically. And stay up to date with breaking news and in-depth reporting available for free 24/7 with the Alaska's news source app.